50% of me really hates the media. Because maybe like half, 2/3 of the time, they talk about things that go on in the hockey world that don't end up happening and that don't actually come to fruition, and it's just, this is something we thought would happen, but it didn't. Or something that we think there could be a spark, but eventually there's nothing that happens. I get it though, a lot of it is speculation, and that's what a lot of hockey insider material exists for, but still, it does not feel good seeing half of the things that go up on there. But the other half of me really loves the media because they say things like this, and it allows me to inject my own opinion and give my own thoughts. Because when I was watching TSN Insider Trading, and I heard about Brendan Gallagher trade rumors, and how the Vancouver Canucks could be in on this, I was like, bro, this is another banger video topic. Sure, do I think it's going to happen? Oh man, if you're asking me to make a bet, I don't know. But let's get into what exactly was said on the media and why exactly this has been said too. First off, context. We spoke yesterday about Brendan Gallagher and the whole contract negotiation with the Habs. We spoke in yesterday's video about how that actually hasn't been going all too well. And even though they're still a year removed, Pierre LeBrun was noted onto saying that the talks between the agent and Bergevin have not gone great. This is because Brendan Gallagher, as we said in yesterday's video, he's a heart and soul kind of guy. He's been here for a long time. He drives a lot of the emotion on this team. And when you're on a team as a 28-year-old guy who needs a new contract, as a guy who many people believe could be the next captain of Montreal, and you see Toffoli coming in here with a $4.25 million AAV. You see Josh Anderson coming in here with a 7-year deal with a $5.5 AAV contract. These are new guys in your team, and they don't have the reputation that you have. They don't have the commitment to the team over the years that you have. So, it's fair for a guy like Gallagher to ask for a lot of money. Which is why a lot of people have been saying, if there's a point where Marc Bergevin, with all these new contracts signed as well, including the previous moves too, the Petrie re-signing, the Edmonton re-signing, not to mention Weber, Price, etc. too, they spoke on Insider Trading about how the idea of a Brendan Gallagher trade may indeed bring itself up if there is no possibility for a negotiation that is agreed upon by both sides. Now, I'm usually a kind of guy who would say, okay, they have a year to get this done. Contact me in a year when this is still a big deal, and then we'll talk. And I usually would be that guy to say that, but we said these things a year ago about Markstrom and Tanev, and now we're reaping the consequences. That's my inner Vancouver Canucks fan coming out here and saying, just because negotiations can go for a year does not mean that things are going to be for sure and certain. So, even though there may be a possibility that Gallagher gets locked up long-term to a contract that both Habs fans and the Gallagher party themselves agree with and think that is fair, the possibility of the contrary does exist, which is why it's even spoken about here on Insider Trading that there could be a trade idea possibility presenting itself soon. And then they bring up the Vancouver Canucks. We'll go over onto Twitter and take a look at a tweet made by NHL News, who pretty much just reports what Frank Saravalli said. This is indeed accurate. So he says on Insider Trading that Vancouver would be number 1 on the list for interested teams in Brendan Gallagher if and when he hits the trade block. Saravalli says that Vancouver is in the market for a winger, and they have the ability to move out some contracts. Benning wants to make one more splash if he could. And that kind of caught me off guard. When I watched the video, and I actually looked at it, link in the description for the video, by the way, if you want to see it, it's like the first half of the video goes after this entire idea. They mentioned how Jim Benning wants to make another splash and how he wants to improve his lineup up front, whether that's through free agency or trades. Benning is scouring the market. And the idea they present is that if a Gallagher negotiation is so far off, there could be a Gallagher trade sooner rather than later. And that is an idea that I personally did not really think was even possible, because to me, if the Bergevin Montreal Canadiens want to go forward with this lineup, they've built themselves such a stacked top 9 that getting rid of a Gallagher, my gosh. Would you really want to break up this team that you just assembled without trying it out first? Would you really not want to see with a top 9 of Tatar, Deneau, Gallagher, Drouin, Suzuki, Anderson, Armia, Kotkaniemi, and Tyler Toffoli could do? The first thing you do after bringing together this team is to break them up? Are you serious? And that's kind of why I was so shook when they mentioned that Brendan Gallagher could get traded sooner rather than later, and the Canucks being the first team mentioned out there certainly spooked me too. Now, I get the reasoning they mentioned on the broadcast. It does make sense. Gallagher is indeed a hometown guy. He was a Vancouver Giants legend. Vancouver fans love Brendan Gallagher because the reputation he established for himself as a small hockey player with grit out of the Vancouver Giants system was extraordinary. And there's no doubt in my mind that if Vancouver was to acquire a Brendan Gallagher, a lot of people would say, yeah, that makes the team better. It really does. Depending on what the return is, this could be a very good move for the team. But I'll say this. The last time the Vancouver Canucks traded for what was a pending UFA, it was Tyler Toffoli. And we saw the Vancouver Canucks make a move out of desperation, where they wanted to be a cup-contending team. They traded futures for a Tyler Toffoli who helped them out for 17 games. That still really does sting, but the philosophy behind the move was, hey, we needed a player to replace Brock Besser. We want to make the playoffs. We want to reward our team for being competitive and for being so close. So here, Tyler Madden, Tim Schaller, second-round pick, give us Toffoli back, LA. And it worked, I guess, but at the same time, you sacrifice so much of the future for what was 17 games out of Tyler Toffoli. Tyler Madden is a very good prospect, and I'm not going to get over that. But now we're in a position where if the Vancouver Canucks wanted to make another similar trade, if they're in a position to give up draft picks, prospects, in exchange for that Gallagher, if there's no contract extension put into the deal, I don't want to touch it. I'm sorry. But negotiations like these, where Gallagher could be in the ballpark of a $6 million contract, maybe even demand more, I don't want to be the team that negotiates with that, because we've seen with other players on this roster, like Markstrom, like Tanev, like Toffoli, that this team can lose those negotiation battles and they can come out on the wrong side. Do I believe it's possible for them to absolutely win? Yes, I do. Obviously, it's possible, but at the same time, I don't want to say that I'm confident that they will. Just looking at how they treated some of these UFAs and how they put Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Tyson Barrie up on their list of priorities, which led to guys like Stetcher and Tanev and all these other guys leaving. Yeah, no, I don't want to say I'm confident in this team to handle its priorities straight. Next offseason, if a Brendan Gallagher is here looking for a contract extension, when he very well could ask for a $6.5 million contract, it's a lot. And even though the player is great, I love Brendan Gallagher as a guy who is a Habs and a Canucks fan. Love this guy to the moon. But if the Vancouver Canucks are in the market for a forward, I wouldn't want to touch the guy who is a year removed from a contract extension. A guy who, in a flat cap environment, can ask for upwards of 6.5. And I've been seeing a ton of Habs fans saying the same thing in my comments. Hey, Gallagher is great, but if you sacrifice the long-term implications of your salary cap with guys like Kotkaniemi and Suzuki, with a Gallagher extension that is $6.5 million, sayonara, Gallagher-san. He is probably not a fit anymore. And I saw a lot of Habs fans in my comment section saying that. And honestly, I agree with the philosophy, because even though Gallagher is so good, he's a leader, he could be the captain of this team, he's 28 years old. When Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, these guys are in their primes, Gallagher's probably going to be 33, 34, 35, something like that. So this is kind of a mess now, and I get that Bergevin did the good thing by acquiring guys like Anderson, Toffoli, Edmondson, etc. These are good moves that make your team competitive today. But the contracts of everything coming together, not to mention Weber and Price, Petrie too, yikes, that's a lot. You're in a position now where Brendan Gallagher, who seemed easy to sign, let's say a month ago, doesn't really seem all too easy to sign anymore. So if there is indeed a trade idea that goes out there, and the Vancouver Canucks are first up on the list, I want there to be an extension, and I don't want it to be over 6.5. And we haven't even discussed what a trade idea would look like. What would Vancouver give up for a Brendan Gallagher? That is a completely different discussion that we haven't even touched on, because in the insider trading video, they don't talk about any returns. It's just, oh, Benning wants to make a splash. If he can move guys like Sutter and Eriksson, they want to get a forward, like, you know, stuff like that. So talk to me in the comments if you're a Canucks, if you're a Habs fan, what you think about what we just talked about over here today. Brendan Gallagher. The negotiation's not going well to the point where Bergevin may consider a trade. And if that's the case, the Vancouver Canucks being the first team up on that list that would want him. I know I certainly had a lot to say about this. This was a terrible commentary. I can't believe we got through 9 minutes of that. But I'm a passionate guy about both of these fan bases, and these situations combining together form what I believe could be a very big concoction of explosivity for one team or the other, so it really does depend, but that was my 2 cents on the matter. Talk to me in the comments what you think. I hope you enjoyed this. That Troll 99, and bye.